Soviet Union. That opportunity is here now, and we have a selfish interest in seeing that it thrives.
Dr. Kissinger, you're very concerned that we not convey the impression that somehow we can be midwives to Russian democracy. By the same token, you agree that some kind of aid has to go, right?
Right.
Now, how do you rationalize those two positions?
Well, let me say three things. One, I agree that aid should go, and I'm in substantial agreement with the program that was announced today. Second, I think that the process of evolution in the former Soviet Union is going to be extremely complicated, and that not every anti-communist is a Democrat, and not every Democrat is against Russian imperialism, which is one of the big problems in the former Soviet Union. And so we have to keep a balance between the various issues that are there. We've been talking all the time here about Russia, but there are 11 other new countries that have emerged out of the Soviet Union, and we have to be sure that we don't start a process in which a new empire is going to be formed by putting all the emphasis on Russia and starting that whole process again, which has already caused so much turmoil in the world.
Today, when the president was announcing the money that would be going, he did make reference, Ambassador Strauss, to Ukraine and Armenia, but basically that was it. Where is the money going to be distributed? I realize you're only ambassador to Russia.
Let me say this. That program calls for a big part of the money, at least half or more than the half of the money, going to Russia. But it also calls for a big part of it, and almost half, going outside of Russia. And I would remind you that that bears a resemblance to the geographical size as well as the population. And so far as neglecting the other countries, let me say this, that we have paid a great deal of attention to the other countries. We have recognized each of the other republics out here. We're the only nation, I think, that's done so. Secretary Baker has traveled to every single republic with the exception of Georgia, republics that I suspect no other Secretary of State of our nation or any other nation has visited in some instances. We work with the other republics. I would point out also that the best way of ensuring that we don't have war between these republics, the best way of ensuring that we don't have a rebuilding of the old empire that was once there, the old so-called evil empire, is to see that democracy survives here. Democracies don't expand at the expense of free people or at the expense of other people. That's what we're talking about here. Those are the values that are important. Those are the values we're trying to install.
Democracy.
Self-install. And let me add one final thing I keep repeating. We cannot try to rebuild Russia or these other republics in the image we want or in our own image. We can try to give them a sense of our values so they will rebuild themselves with democratic values. That's what we're trying to do, and they can't do it by themselves. This is a chaotic, terrible situation out here, far worse than most people understand. But the possibilities for over a long, long period of time of there being a rebuilding out here that's in the sort of image we would hope for is real.
Gentlemen, we've got to take a break. When we come back, Dr. Kissinger, I'd like you to address the danger in a time of very scarce resources in our own country for our own needs of pouring billions down an endless rat hole in what used to be the Soviet Union. We'll continue our discussion in a moment.
Right now, save 25% on Goodyear Eagle ST and Goodyear Invicta GL. That's right, 25% on two of our best-selling all-season radials. It's another reason we say the best tires in the world and in your neighborhood have Goodyear written all over them.
I used to take aspirin to relieve minor arthritis pain until my doctor told me one Advil is as effective as two regular aspirin and is gentler to my stomach. For my pain, I prefer Advil. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Today, Tech Shoe Corporation announced a major retail expansion in 25 U.S. cities.
When I see a company that looks like a good investment, I check it out myself.
We make it easier to follow your own lead.
At Charles Schwab, I can get quotes, financial news, and when I make a trade, commission savings.
Always there to give you just the help you need.
Help yourself at Schwab today.
Where can I get specialized medical care at one location so I don't have to travel all over town?
At the Tower Medical Clinic. That's where.
Why can't I find a clinic where the specialists and my family physician all agree on the best treatment for me?
Because you haven't been to the Tower Medical Clinic. That's why.
When can I get personal health care from a physician who won't treat me like a number?
Now, at the Tower Medical Clinic. That's when. Call 279-WELL.
One of America's most dazzling scientists once claimed he discovered the AIDS virus. Evidence shows he may have only stolen it. Primetime Thursday.
Dr. Kissinger, with both the president and the Democratic leadership committed to this financial aid package and this loan package to the former Soviet Union, it is inevitable that it will go through. But how do you explain to an American public facing scarce resources itself that this is something worthwhile when at the same time you're making the point that you can't buy democracy?
Well, I'd make the argument that none of these republics is at this moment a democracy, and none of them is really a market economy, but they're trying to move in a much better direction than before. We have an interest in preventing catastrophe there and to prevent a sense of despair that could then take extremely nationalistic forms and lead to some situation similar to Yugoslavia. And so we can contribute to the present level of aid, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But in the end, they have to get themselves a legal system. They have to get themselves the conditions in which foreign private investment can take place, because the bulk of the foreign resources cannot come from governments. And I look at this year's program and maybe another few years as a sort of stabilization, but we have to be very careful not to put ourselves in the position where this becomes our principal obligation, because if you look at Germany, in a population of 16 million in East Germany, it costs the West Germans $90 billion a year, plus their own civil service, plus their own managerial group. On this basis, it would cost $1 trillion to do the same thing for all the republics of the former Soviet Union a year, and these resources aren't available. We have to get these republics to undertake their own programs, and we can help in a humanitarian way, some technical assistance, and a few of the stabilization proposals that have been made. But we should not oversell this program, and above all, we should keep in mind also our foreign policy objectives there. It isn't done by a visit of the Secretary of State to these various republics. There's been a long history there, and we have to have an approach that is appropriate to all of them if we don't want to get a tremendous mess developing.
Ambassador Strauss, you are that rare combination of both diplomat and a man who knows a great deal about domestic politics in this country. You know that you've got to sell this to the American public. Is there a danger that it's going to be oversold, that too many things will have to be promised in order to get that money?
Well, let me say this, Ted. I think we sell the American public short. I'm basically in agreement with what Henry Kissinger said. But let me add that I think sometimes, in response to your question, we sell too frequently the American public short. You give them the facts, and they'll usually make the right decisions and support the right decisions. And I think the facts are out here that the dangers that Henry Kissinger talked about are here. This is a high-risk game. There's a lot of risk involved out here. There are no sure things out here. But when I look at the risk of losing the dollars we're talking about on the one hand, and the risk of losing an opportunity that we have that's in our national interest on the other hand, the odds sway strongly in favor of our prudently, wisely, intelligently, sensibly creeping forward as we are with support out here. They cannot make it alone. On the other hand, if I had $10 billion to spend tonight, I wouldn't know where to spend $100 of it right now. As these institutions become installed, as technical assistance becomes available, as the IMF and others begin to work out here, we can begin then slowly but wisely and prudently provide the kind of assistance they need. And I would remind you of one more thing. People aren't asking for charity out here, and there's been no demand for charity. There's been demand for, and request, if you will, for support. Support for someone we hope will be a real partner of ours in the world in generations to come. I think the gamble in the national interest of America surely says this program deserves support.
Dr. Kissinger, in the 30 or 40 seconds we've got left, and it's a tough question, but what should we be looking for as signs that it's beginning to work? What are the first indications of a thriving democracy?
Well, that they have working parliamentary institutions, that they have real political parties, that the rule by decree is diminished, and that they begin to recognize the other countries that have emerged out of the former Soviet Union, so that a normal international system can develop there, and not the danger that somebody will try to reconquer or re-centralize that whole area. And we also ought to think of Eastern Europe. It is sort of strange that Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, that were the first victims of Soviet aggression, that nobody talks about them, and everybody focuses on the former oppressor, and those countries have the same problems as Russia.
We are way beyond the 30 seconds, but I thank you both, Dr. Kissinger, Ambassador Strauss. Good of you both to be with us. I'll be back in a moment.
Right now, IBM is going beyond conventional computing by pioneering a way to touch millions of lives.
Raise, blow,
They love the hands-on stuff.
Information becomes something with an imagination.
IBM Multimedia.
You can touch so many emotions with pictures and colors and sounds.
It's really wonderfully exciting.
One measure of quality in a car is how quiet it is. And you might be surprised to find out who builds the car that's the quietest. Holographic imaging actually lets one company see the smallest noise and get rid of it. It's just one of the many ways we're using technology to engineer quality at Ford Motor Company.
Our quality is paying off. From the Ford Escort to the quietest car you can buy, the Lincoln Town Car.
Ford Motor Company. Quality is job one. It's working.
How fast does Anbesol start to relieve toothache pain? Before you can say,
Anbesol.
denture pain? Before you can say,
Anbesol.
relieve minor mouth pain on contact with Anbesol in regular or maximum strength.
Making your place look great should be fun and save you money. To do it right the first time, just ask Ace.
This 4 cubic foot wheelbarrow is only $19.99. An Ace lawn rake or round point shovel just $5.99 each.
Ace Best Buy is another reason Ace is the place for you.
Each weekday morning at 11:30, you can catch up on the latest news and weather by watching the Channel 5 News Midday Report. Rod Fowler and Renee Starzik will keep you in touch with local and national news, and meteorologist Rick Mitchell will tell you what's ahead in the weather forecast. The Channel 5 News Midday Report, weekdays at 11:30 on Channel 5. When severe weather hits, Channel 5 will warn you first with a Guardian Lightning Tracker. It's the latest forecasting technology from Channel 5's team of professional meteorologists. The Guardian, only on Channel 5.
On the next Good Morning America, Secretary of State James Baker on American aid to the former Soviet Union.
Get a new way to earn frequent flyer miles, and Sharon Stone on Good Morning America.
We're out of time. Good night.
Nightline is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Thursday, Columbo enters the world of dreams and nightmares to find a killer.
I always felt Louise was repressing something. You're searching for meaning, but you'll never find it.
This is really interesting. Peter Falk's Columbo and Murder, a self-portrait, Thursday.
Clear and cold overnight with a low temperature near 20.
Millions of Americans are unemployed. Our economy is mired in a seemingly endless recession. Yields on your deposit